So that's one message that I want to make sure we get out to the community. This is a safe place and a good place, and it is your city. It's our city. And you have a right to protest, which we support and believe in and celebrate in this city. The First Amendment should always be real here. And last night we had over 4,000 peaceful protesters making their opinions known on the streets of our city. But we also had some anarchists who hijacked that event and did terrible damage to our neighbors and friends. That's a crime, and it is unacceptable. And they spread violence and fear and detracted from the legitimate exercise of that First Amendment right. Those activities, those crimes are not a reflection of the Portland values that we do know we can believe in and that are still true here. I want to thank the Portland Police Bureau for their work last night and over the last couple of days to do everything from try to mitigate the damage to public and private property that those vandals caused, to safely direct motorists while there was a lot of disorder on the streets, to employ de-escalation techniques and really be thoughtful about the use of force in a situation that, again, has been occasionally chaotic, and to appropriately make arrests for criminal activity. Chief Marshman is here and he'll talk about those arrests. He'll talk about the investigation, the detective team that we have working, we hope with a lot of cooperation from our friends and neighbors who were participating last night, about who was it who smashed those windows and who did that harm. Mike will also talk a bit about permits, because we want organizations that want to conduct First Amendment activities to get in touch with the Police Bureau and get a permit so we know what your route is and so we can help support the event. It's not about telling you you can or cannot protest. It's about making sure that we have people in contact with your leadership so that if something does start to go wrong, we can help wall off that problem. Another message I want to make sure we all know and believe in, and that is, this is a good place and a safe place, and it's a great city, and we should not stay home in fear because a few people practiced fear-mongering and did harm to each other's property last night. There's a lot happening in our city tonight. If you have tickets to the Blazer game or the Winterhawks game, go. If you wanted to go to that great Oregon Symphony concert tonight, go. If you wanted to go to your neighborhood restaurant with some friends, do that. Don't hide at home, because then those forces of fear and division win in a place where that simply should not happen. I want to tell you another hopeful note that Nancy and I saw. We were out on Northwest Lovejoy. We went over to Broadway Toyota, where the folks over there suffered a lot of vandalism last night. And thank you to Portlanders who came by and dropped off food for the staff there. Their spirits were good. We walked up and down Northwest Lovejoy, and while we were standing out in front of Urban Pantry, we ran into 4 young Portlanders named London, Daniela, Linnea, and David. They don't live in the Pearl District. They live in southeast Portland, but they participated in the protest last night, exercising that legitimate First Amendment right. They saw people doing damage, they were appalled, and they came back with brooms and buckets and started sweeping up the glass of people they didn't even know. Now, that's the spirit of Portland. I hope we don't need those 4 people's service again, because that's not okay that they even had to do that. But I so appreciate that that's who we are as a city. So let's keep being that place. Let's keep being good neighbors. Let's go out and enjoy our city. Let's exercise our First Amendment right whenever we see fit. But let's do that in a way that is neighborly and in that spirit of Portland. With that, I want to let Mike speak, and then we're both available for questions.
Good afternoon. Thanks for coming. There's a few folks, first of all, I'd like to thank. First, I'd like to thank the mayor for his leadership. We're in pretty much constant communication, actually almost always, but for the last few days, we've been in constant communication about protests and how we should handle it and appropriate strategies. So I appreciate his leadership, so I want to thank him for that. Second, the Portland Police Bureau members, our command staff, our non-sworn professional staff, have been exemplary. We've been doing this almost 24 hours a day now for a few days. It takes its toll on my folks. They're very competent, very well trained. I just want to give them my gratitude because I think they're doing an exemplary job. Plus our other partners, Washington County Sheriff's Office, Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, OSP, PBOT, ODOT, and the list goes on. We have a lot of help in trying to keep this city safe, so I'm very thankful for those folks. And last, like the mayor said, I too this morning went some of the protest route, saw some of the damage. And last night on the news, I saw some of the peaceful protesters actually, tipped over mailboxes and newspaper boxes and putting them back onto the sidewalk. That's good. It's one of the unique things about Portland. I'm grateful that folks that come out and do peaceful protest want to keep it peaceful. Because here's one of the tragedies. Again, the Portland Police, the city of Portland, we want people to exercise their First Amendment rights to get their views out. That's okay. We will help facilitate that. If you want us to help you with that and get a permit, we've done it for years and years and years, call us. Probably right now, you can call the police bureau. We'll get it up on our Twitter account. That's probably the best way to follow us too, by the way, is on our Twitter accounts. We will get you a permit. We will help you with the route. Our goal is a couple things. One, safety. That's the ultimate key. And second, to make sure that folks don't hijack your peaceful protest. Because like last night, most of the news I saw, understandably so, was on the damage. The folks who have emotional concerns, real concerns about their views, you don't see that message. I think that's a tragedy, right? It's our job in the Police Bureau, I believe, to help facilitate First Amendment rights. We want to do that. We will help you do that. We've done it in the past. We'll do it in the future. We'll turn over Q&A questions right now, but is Greg gonna? Hey, Greg. We're fluid here. I'm gonna have Greg speak for. Micah. Sorry. I'm sorry. Need more coffee. Sorry.
My name is Micah Rhodes. I live here in Portland. I'm sure that some people recognize me as an organizer and coordinator for Don't Shoot Portland, but I've also been separately helping organize these last couple days of protests since the election of Donald Trump. Last night there were some instances of violence during the marches that we were leading. We had, like Charlie said earlier, we had a good 4,000 people out there. We met up with several different organizations and protests that were going on around the city. When we met up with the third group, it turned out to be with the Black Cross anarchists, and so they started marching with us. As we started making our way away from Lloyd Center and we were coming across the Broadway Bridge, there was some broken windows at a car dealership, and then we entered the Pearl and some businesses were damaged, as well as some other vehicles and other personal property. We instructed, for the most part, our protesters to the best of our abilities to not engage anybody who was doing vandalism or any sort of actions that they didn't agree with, that they step away rather than engage them. It was a safety issue. When people engage with people who are violent, they can sometimes turn violent towards you, even if you guys are on the same side. So we instructed our people not to engage. We did have people that were threatening each other, and we didn't want that to escalate. The damages were substantial to many different properties. The Portland's Resistance has already raised $25,000 to repair the damages that were done last night and are continuing to raise money. We have had crews out there today trying to help clean up and trying to help the community come together and be strong together.
Mike, if people want to wait just a second, but if people want to contribute to that fund, how do they do it?
So on the Portland Resistance page, there's a GoFundMe account where the money is going into, and we're using that to repair windows and property. Also to clean off graffiti, because there was some amount of graffiti along the way too.
Yeah. What about that question? A lot of viewers are saying, hey, what about the organizers? They should be held responsible.
You don't have to answer the question.
I can answer this. So as an organizer, of freedom of speech and when it comes to protests, people come together for different reasons. A lot of people come together and can find common situations that they're in or things that they're mad about, but when it comes down to how people express themselves, that is up to their own accord. I am not a police officer. I'm not in any position of power to be able to tell another human being what to do or what not to do. It is everybody's choice to do whatever they must. However, we didn't condone those actions. We tried to stay away from them. We tried to keep the people who were peaceful away from them, and that's all we could have done.
What are your plans tonight? Are you asking people to go out again or keep them home?
So tonight we are not having a march as far as I'm concerned. We are going to have a rally here at 5 o'clock just to sort of talk to people, maybe discuss some things that happened last night and where we're going to go from here.
There are other protests planned. What's your message to those organizers? Because we see how things can get out of hand so quickly.
I think that my message to other organizers, if you are out there planning a protest for tonight or a march, just try and keep people safe. Safety is the biggest concern that I have. Last night we had a man run over by a car. So like my job as a coordinator of these marches, I run around and make sure that we try and stop traffic and make sure cars aren't coming through. We try not to engage with people who are on the streets because other people with differing opinions sometimes can get aggressive too. It's just all about safety. So if those organizers can come up with a sort of plan and have people sort of as security and people that can help out with keeping people safe, that would be the best
I
option.
want to talk to the mayor and the police chief.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Up here.
Thanks. Okay.
We've heard from a whole lot of folks, as you can well imagine, throughout the night, concerned not enough was done to control this thing before it spiraled out of control. How do you respond to that?
Well, I'll start and let the chief answer the tactical questions. But again, we support the right of people to exercise their First Amendment rights in this city. There also are obvious practical realities, and we hope that people will always keep those in mind. People need to get home to their kids. So when people block the MAX trains, that's, to me, unacceptable. When people go onto freeways, that's unacceptable. And certainly property damage is unacceptable. So we always try to be accommodating of those legitimate First Amendment rights, but we live in a community together and we need to be mindful of each other.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I agree with everything the mayor said. So, not every protest, actually every single protest is a little bit unique, a little bit different. So with Wednesday night, because sometimes we get this, first night, second night, third night, a little bit different, how many nights of protest. So Wednesday night, with detailed conversations with the mayor's office, we knew it's gonna be a little bit different because the election, a lot of people, and I suggested what I termed like a light touch and very little police presence. What I wanted to happen is folks in Portland get out, voice their concerns, and by and large, Wednesday night, that did occur. Obviously, last night, Thursday night, didn't go so much. The problem for the police bureau, when you have roughly 5,000 or so people spread out for a long way, tactically, it's very hard to go in and grab just one or two vandals committing crimes. The reason why that's hard is if I send a bunch of officers in, I have to balance before I give advice to the mayor's office on, will that actually increase the potential for violence, increase people attacking police or frankly attacking each other. It's very fluid. Crowd management and crowd control is very hard, very, very dynamic. And there's a bunch of us that watch it, monitor it constantly, and try to take advantage of selected arrests when we can to mitigate the emotion and to stop the criminal activity.
What specifically is being done differently tonight to prevent the rioting we saw yesterday?
Well, one, I appreciate Micah's words. We're essentially asking people, if you want to come out and protest, do it maybe stationary. Don't march. That's part one. Part two, if you do want to march, work with the police bureau and a lot, like Micah said, get a permit. Will help facilitate the march. We don't want people going one way down a wrong way street. And that sounds kind of simple, but that's very, very dangerous. We can help the flow of movement so they can get their message out without creating traffic jams more than necessary and flashpoints. So what's being done tonight, we're asking people to either take the night off, frankly, from protesting or do it statically with the hopes of if there is an event tonight, it's not 5,000 or 6,000 people.
Chief, what happens if the anarchists come out tonight? What's your plan to get to them sooner rather than later?
I have contingency plans in place for tonight. If the anarchists come out, again, hopefully it's just smaller numbers. And I've talked to the mayor and given some suggestions how to do that. But it's my goal not to have the amount of vandalism and frankly rampant criminal activity we had last night.
Will you
That's
keep them off the freeways this time?
it would be my desire to keep them off the freeways. Yes,
Is that part of the plan?
that would be part of the plan.
Chief, was there a disagreement at any point in time with the mayor of having protesters access the freeway? Did you suggest against it?
I'm glad you brought that question up because I think there's some misinformation there. Even though the mayor and I let folks go on the freeway Wednesday night, even though we did that, because again, it's unique, it's a different group of protesters that night, I would never advise, generally speaking, doing that. It's very dangerous because as protests go through the city, we've seen in the past, people kind of get spooled up and ramped up and follow along. And I get that, and that's okay. But if you have an incident where the tenor of the protest starts changing, if you're downtown, if you're a protester who doesn't want to partake in that, you could quickly make a right or left and you're out. You're out of it. If you're on the freeway, they're not designed for pedestrian access. We don't want the protesters who don't want to partake anymore to get stuck. That's the main tactical reason. It's just not safe, and there's no easy egress for those folks who don't want to partake anymore. So that's why, generally speaking, I don't like folks getting on the freeway, and also for the safety reasons. But again, each protest, we look at it, how should we handle it? We don't have a specific playbook of how to do it.
So you were both anyway now?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing I'd say is there are things that people in a protest can do to de-escalate, and there are things that the police bureau can do to de-escalate, so that the legitimate message of a rally or a protest can be heard. And I think we should all keep those in mind. You know, if I'm a protester and I block the MAX trains and I'm keeping a mom from getting her kids from daycare, I'm probably not advancing my cause. And I'm also messing up the whole regional transportation system. If I walk onto a freeway and there's a family in their car with a truck behind them, I might be responsible for their deaths. So there are things that protesters can do to make sure that they're being members of a community. And there are things the police bureau can do in terms of always being very careful about de-escalation and the use of force. And again, I commend the chief and the police bureau for everything they've done so far in a terrible, difficult week with a lot of people that are angry. So let's move forward. And again, I hope people that are angry always know in Portland they should express that, and then they should turn that to action in the way they see fit. But let's also be safe tonight and tomorrow night and on, and enjoy our great city, however we choose to do that, and enjoy being neighbors, as those 4 young people who moved my heart this afternoon when we saw them out there cleaning up the glass in front of a store they'd probably never visited and for a person they didn't know before. Let's be more like that as we figure out how we keep our city the place we love and make the country the place we thought it was.
Hey Chief, I'm curious if there is a specific definition of riot, because clearly things devolved last night, but at the time you guys formally on Twitter sort of declared a riot, it was not as widespread chaos. So is there a specific metric or crossing point, or is it more subjective?
Yeah, there is a legal definition, and I don't memorize those, but more than 5 people doing criminal activity in unison, something along those lines, you could be a definition of a riot. And it's not on, off. So once we declare a riot, that's how it's going to be. Also, with the PIO put it out on Twitter, hopefully folks that were thinking about coming down, if they see that the Portland Police has declared this a riotous situation, hopefully they'll go, you know what, maybe I don't want to come down, because it's obviously now off the message, wherever the message might be, and now it's just focused on riotous type activity.
Okay, and I just want to clarify, I've never seen you guys handle a protest like this. I've not been covering protests for decades, but the last 3 years or so. I mean, typically the bike cops are out monitoring, and then the rapid response team is ready to go. I've never seen anything this hands-off, and so it was purely sort of the political moment that you guys sensed, or I know there's been some recent scrutiny over October 12th and what happened here in City Hall. Was there any element of that in how you guys responded?
Well, I'll say that in context here. There have been other times when we as a community have certainly enabled people to protest with little direction from the police bureau. If you recall, there was a moment in one of the protests about Ferguson when a group of protesters went into Pioneer Place, occupied it for a while, and chanted and then left. They were not followed by any police officers. That was a good tactical decision, in my opinion, at that moment. And the chief and the other officers that are leading this work in real time have to make those kind of tactical decisions. In this case, I support the approach that was taken, which is this is a national political moment that people here want to speak about. We want to let them speak. That has to stop short of doing something that's dangerous or criminal, and a very small number of people went over that line last night.
Can either of you guarantee we won't see the extent of damage tonight that we saw last night?
I can't guarantee anything, but I'll tell you this: if folks want to come out and protest First Amendment rights, do it lawfully, you have my blessing. If we get intelligence and you want to come out and create havoc and do criminal damage to the city, we'll respond accordingly to that.
Have any of those groups applied for a permit yet? Any of the groups?
They might have. If they have, I haven't been told today. So.
So we heard from a lot of viewers who were kind of curious where was city leadership when this was devolving so much under out of town, and no tweets or anything like that. Can you speak to those concerns?
Well, I was out of town for part of last night, but I was in touch with the chief and my chief of staff right up until 1:30 this morning, and then began again at 5 a.m. this morning. Yes, I have been obviously following this. Again, my job is to lead the city, set the tone, and try to express the public's will to my bureaus, including this one. And the chief's job and his staff is to carry out that direction in moment-by-moment tactical decisions. So even though we have discussions about how they approach incidents, I'm never, and I would never recommend that any mayor ever, be issuing specific orders to officers about what they do and they don't do. That's the chief's job.
Mayor, Oregon Republican Party Chief Bill Currier calling for your resignation now. Dereliction of duty over what happened last night. How do you respond?
I don't know if I've ever said this in all my public life, but I will relish saying it now. No comment about the Oregon Republican Party.
Mr. Mayor, what about this? You told people to go out tonight, it'll be safe, and yet for the last two, three nights we've got video of people just trying to live their lives, suddenly stuck in their cars, windshields shattered, people yelling and screaming at them.
Right.
Why should they trust that tonight's going to be different?
Because all that's necessary for evil to win is for good people to hunker down and not reach out to one another. It's a little risky at some level to say, no, I still live here. I'm going out tonight with my friends. Or I'm going to go to Pioneer Courthouse Square or to City Hall and be part of a protest. But they should do that. We should do that. We should not hide from one another because a few people were outrageous and evil and broke the law. And we will find them and prosecute them to the best of our ability. And that's true whether it's, a gang-related shooting, a domestic violence incident, a traffic crash, or any other crime. So we're a very safe city. We were yesterday, we are this afternoon, and we will be tonight. And we should take a deep breath and remember that and say hello to somebody you haven't met before on your way down the street, but go outside.
Chief, in the instance of those people being trapped in their cars just trying to get through, what should those people do? What should those drivers do? What's in their rights to do? Should they keep going, try to push through the protest, or abandon their car? What should they do?
I think most folks, again, situationally specific. So we had folks trying to turn around on the freeway. We sent some cars down there. We shut the freeway down to get them all turned around and off. And we're going to try to get there as fast as we can. I would advise staying in your car and call us, and we're going to hear about it pretty quick. One comment that one of the mayor said, what can folks do? Anybody who has information about whoever damaged the city last night, call the Portland Police. I'm more than happy to take whatever video footage you might have, business video footage you might have. We'd love to follow up on any of that. We have our detectives early this morning going out to businesses and communities, people had their cars damaged. So we already have a detective investigative detail doing all now the investigative piece of this protest from last night. So we need the community's help in that part too.
Chief, any idea what the cost is to taxpayers on this with all the overtime and damages aside, just to the Bureau and calling in extra resources?
Yeah, so I'd hate to hazard a guess, but I will. With all the resources for the Police Bureau, because it's staffing intensive, obviously, damage to the city. I wouldn't be surprised if it's over $1 million.
With damages.
Yeah.
Chief, who are these black anarchists that you're talking about?
You know, I'm sure they've changed over the years since I started doing this. I'm sure they've grown up and moved on to other things. But it's just essentially a group of, they call themselves anarchists. I don't think they frankly care about what the message is that the peaceful protesters are trying to get out. Their intent's to damage the city. So to me, it's just a criminal element.
Well, what's the nickname come from? The black box or black?
Black bloc.
Black bloc has nothing to do with their race. It has to do with some self-identity as anarchists.
Were any of the people arrested last night actually doing vandalism, or was it peaceful folks who just sort of sat down and said, I'm not leaving arresting?
You know, I haven't gone through yet and read all the reports. It's going to take me a while to get through those. So I'm not specifically sure the folks who were arrested last night, to what degree they may or may not have been doing vandalism. But again, like last night, what we try to do is target the folks that are doing the egregious vandalism and try to temper the emotionality of the protest and kind of get it going back on track again, frankly. Take that criminal element out and let the peaceful protesters keep going. So I'm not sure, I haven't even read all the charges yet on folks who've arrested.
Tell us how you actually go about trying to find these people after the fact, the anarchists who actually cause damage with their masks on. They're hard to find in the crowd. How do you identify them?
You know, our detective division, they're very, very good at what they do. I think we have some stuff up on our page already, maybe with pictures of folks we're looking for. You know, phones work both ways, right? Videos work both ways. So somebody knows who did it. I'm just asking for their help, frankly.
Are you getting any information about who these people are?
I haven't checked in with the investigative part yet today.
Of the $1 million cost, do you know how much of that is just for the police resources?
You know, when I got my initially last night trying to run this up in my head, I wasn't thinking about the police part of it at all. So I was just trying to think about, you know, big plate glass windows in town, all the cars in the dealerships. I have to imagine that's significant amounts of money. But in terms of overtime costs for the police bureau, I frankly haven't started to look at that number yet.
Well, in that million, it seems very ephemeral, right? Like you haven't like priced out plate glass and all that. I just want to be clear on how.
It's a guesstimate.
It's a guesstimate. I mean, I think the gentleman from the Toyota dealership was about $250,000. So there's a quick $250,000 right there. So it adds up fast.
Much has been said about how short-staffed the bureau is right now. Did that hurt you guys at all over the last few days?
It does, but again, like to really truly thank Oregon State Police, Washington County Sheriff's Office, Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. They came in on the east and west side of the city and helped take some of our regular daily routine police calls, so I could free up some officers to come downtown and work on a protest. You know, I have detectives now, and here's the sad side of it. I have detectives who are going to investigate this, you know, felony property crime, and all that means is they're not doing the other work I need them to do. Right? So, you know, the criminal element is really damaging the folks, the residents of Portland, because I'm pulling them off one case to focus on another case. That's where it's problematic.
I'd love to get your thoughts, the two of you, on this Veterans Day. As we watched the video last night of the protesters, several lighting flags on fire in the streets. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it is Veterans Day, and Hollywood Veterans Day Parade went off as it always does because we honor them here. And we are, and I believe will be, a great country. But we are in great pain, and I personally am disheartened by the election of Donald Trump. That doesn't mean America's done, and it also means that we all who are political activists, whether as an elected official like I am now or as a private citizen as I will be in 2 months, we have a responsibility to get involved and say, this is my community, I'm going to work for making it better, or I'm going to get involved in national politics, or next election I'm going to take a couple months off and go door to door in Ohio. So I hope people are starting to think ahead just that way about how the American experiment goes on. In the meantime, we live here, and this is a good place, and there are a lot of opportunities to be influential here. You know, the day after the election, we had this amazing hearing in our city council chambers where citizens came in and were influential. And then yesterday, we had this amazing hearing on Portland's leadership on climate action. where we once again are going to be the first city in the world to do something, that is ban the export of fossil fuels from our city. And the room was full of citizens coming to state their case, and kids, children from our schools, middle schools and high schools, who were the most eloquent speakers there. And if you could have been in that room as we were yesterday afternoon, is that right? I'm losing track of time in my fatigue. If you could have been in that room yesterday afternoon and heard those kids from Grant and Lincoln and Sunnyside Elementary School talk about the future, about their fears for the future, and about their belief that in this place we can make a difference, you would have said there's still hope for democracy even this week. And I believe that. Yes, sir.
On the flag issue, I'm offended of the veterans. And I have a couple suggestions if you wouldn't mind hearing them.
Well, let's talk after when these guys are done. But I think your point about the flag is real, and that we should mention that. And that is, I understand the need to protest, but as an American and as somebody who does honor our veterans, I'd say find another way than that. Anything else before we close?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm looking for a little specificity on what sort of the use of force entailed last night. It was hard to tell. There was explosions. It felt like there was pure gas. I mean, can you be specific about what these little munitions were?
Well, my assumption is will be an investigation by IPR on it at some point in time, so I want to get in specific details, but we used some inert rounds, some aerosol.
Like a rubber bullet, for instance?
No.
Big firecracker.
Yeah, big like air bursts.
Okay.
Big air bursts. We did use some projectiles, some pepper, but nothing, in my opinion, overt for the activity that was occurring.
I'm just trying to protect, make sure I know.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
thank
thank
you
you.
all very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.